Hello aspirants, looking at current affairs for 10th December. These are the 10 news items which we have picked up from the Hindu. The first one, ex-IAF Chief Tyagi held in Augusta case. So this is Indian Air Force Chief, Air Chief Marshal, retired SP Tyagi, who has been arrested by the CBI presently for his alleged involvement in 3,700 crore Augusta Westland VVIP helicopter deal. So what was this deal all about? First we'll look at that. So this is the whole story. It started in 1999 when Indian Air Force proposed that it required to purchase 8 helicopters for VVIP duties. Very, very important persons. So for this, operational requirement request was put forth and finalized in 2002. Global tenders were issued to 11 vendors, out of which 4 responded and 3 were shortlisted by the government. So these 3 were from Russia, Mi-172, one of Eurocopter, and one was Augusta Westland. So after this, Augusta Westland was seen to not qualify for this because it was not capable of flying 6,000 meters as was the requirement of operational requirement put forth. So final evaluation was seen that only Eurocopter EC-225 was worthy of acquisition, means there was no competition. So Prime Minister's office then objected that a single vendor situation should be avoided. So they revised the operational requirements. So after that revision, now Augusta Westland was also eligible, and finally the request for proposal was issued and the tender finalized after the tenders given, and Augusta Westland got this deal. So that came in 2008. So this deal was finalized. The cost negotiation also took place and the contract was finalized for this around 3,726.96 crores. The contract was signed in 2010. 3 helicopters were also delivered between 2012 and 13. But in the meantime, all this went on in India, but in Italy, so Augusta Westland is from Italy, and in Italy this corruption scandal came forth. So there were allegations of unethical dealings, middlemen who were involved in this dealing. So this all came forth, and prosecution against the CEO of Finmeccanica. So Finmeccanica is the company who has Augusta Westland as its subsidiary. So this is the main organization. So its CEO were also prosecuted against. There were charges framed against them, and now they have been sentenced to jail terms as well. So because of this, the case was filed in India as well. CBI registered a case against Air Chief Marshal SP Tyagi and also his cousin and others involved. So this case is presently going on. So this is the whole background of the whole thing. One more thing you should know about how to deal with Finmeccanica. So earlier the Ministry of Defence India had decided that Finmeccanica and all its subsidiaries would be banned. There would be a blanket ban, but later this was changed because it was realized that many equipments are required for the servicing of the present contracts which are there. So that is why this blanket ban was removed, and there were other restrictions posed on how to deal with Finmeccanica. So that is detailed out here. So then the present news, we'll look at this too. So this is the whole thing. So he was SP Tyagi, retired IAF chief, was one of the very few to head IAF Command's Chief of Air Staff. So he had changed the tender rules for Augusta Westland in 2013. That happened during his tenure. So he has in April 2016 now been summoned by the Enforcement Directorate, and this is the first time that a service chief will be arrested. He has been arrested already. So this is there that he is being held now. So it says that CBI has determined that 450 crore rupees or 12% of the entire deal was paid as bribes. So these bribes went to Mr. SP Tyagi, it is alleged, and others involved. So he claims that the change was done as per the procedure, but then there are still, because 6,000 meters were the requirement, then it was changed to reduce to 4,500 meters, which made Augusta Westland as an eligible candidate for it. So this point is highlighted by him that it was the procedural requirement, it was not just my decision. as an air chief, but then there are charges of corruption and money dealings have taken place, kickbacks have been paid. So that is the main point, that has to be prosecuted and findings should come out. So even India is requesting for extradition of the alleged British middleman Christian Michael. So he undertook around 300 trips to India between 1997 and 2013 from UAE and is involved in this bribery. So 1997 was when the deal initiation started for this VVIP choppers. Then the next news item is keep your promise on cash withdrawal limits. Supreme Court tells government. So cash withdrawal limit which the government has put on savings account is 24,000, but then the banks are unable to keep this promise of the government. So that is what the Supreme Court is speaking on, that you keep your promise. So it has questioned also whether this demonetization decision was a product of impulse, that by impulse it has been done, or is there mind applied behind it and then after making proper arrangements this decision was taken. So Supreme Court is questioning this. So presently there are a bunch of petitions which have been filed against demonetization, which a bench of the Supreme Court is looking into. So it's the points put forth are shown here. It is a 3-judge bench presently, which has also said that we can refer it to a larger bench whenever required. So the first point is, these are the 10 questions put forth, that is demonetization ultra vires, means illegal. Under the provisions of RBI, demonetization can be done, but demonetization of such a large scale of around 86% of the currency under circulation, can that be done, is one question. Second question, it says that is this excessive delegation of powers and ultra vires to the constitution, that an act is being, through an act the government is, executive is given so much of powers which should not be given. So excessive delegation has taken place from legislature to the executive. So it's a law being finalized by the legislature. So executive has to act under it, but in legislation, it's actually the rights of the legislation. So that is excessive delegation to executive. Then third point is, if the November 8 notification falls foul of Article 14 and 19, right to equality. So everybody has not been treated equally, means relative equality too. The poorer should be better taken care of. So all those aspects, freedom. Article 19 is about freedom. So the freedom which the people have, that is also being affected. So that is the point. Then fourth point is if restrictions on withdrawal of funds violates Article 14 and 19. Because there are restrictions being pushed. Then next is, does the implementation of November 8 notification suffer from procedural and substantive unreasonableness? That the procedure used and the substance behind demonetization is unreasonable. Then next point is whether the notification and subsequent ones violate Article 300A, right to property. Then whether exclusion of district central cooperative banks are excluded from exchange and deposit and withdrawal of money. Does this amount to discrimination? Then what is the scope of judicial review in fiscal economic matters? Can demonetization only be brought by parliamentary statute? So this is linked to Article 2, point 2, excessive delegation 2. And lastly, whether writ petitions filed by different political parties under Article 32 are maintainable. So it's speaking on those counts. So we'll have to wait. The judiciary is looking into this issue of demonetization and the judgment will take some time before it comes forth. But one point is very clear, that the judiciary has not stayed the demonetization. When the case was filed, it refused. It did not stall. Demonetization will continue, as well as the judiciary will look into the matter as well. Then the next article is, was there any application of mind? Asked Supreme Court. So this is again on the same demonetization issue. The case is being heard presently. So the government is being questioned whether it said that the cash crunch issue would be resolved within the time frame, but it has been more than a month and still people are suffering, and there are number of PILs which have been filed in the Supreme Court on this demonetization issue. So this has been questioned. Also, one point put forth by the opposition was that 91 people have died in the aftermath of demonetization, but then the Attorney General Mukul Rohatgi, he argues that this is only a political propaganda and there is little truth behind it. The next article is DU photocopy case. Court restores copyright sued by publishers for trial. This DU, Delhi University photocopy case, we have already discussed in September 2016 when a single judge had given his judgment on this issue, whether the copyright issue is violated. Because what was happening is in Delhi University there is this Rameshwari photocopy service which prepares course packs. So course packs are as required by the Delhi University for various courses. So extracts from Xeroxes from various international publishing houses books like Oxford, Cambridge and other Taylor and Francis books. All these are used and course packs are prepared. So Xeroxes comprising of various units from all these. So this is there used for academic purpose, teaching purposes. So in the Copyright Act in India, there is an exception provided that if it is for teaching and copyright purposes, it is allowed. But then this is mass scale Xeroxing which is done, and the Delhi University case, then when it was heard, it said that there is no violation of copyright and Delhi University's this photocopy center was allowed to continue. So these international publishing houses and now asked for a review of that decision, and it has been put to trial. So presently again the judiciary will look into this matter. So we'll have to see again what will be the fresh judgment on this matter, because it said the books are very costly and students cannot buy all the books. Some units of every book, if it's put together as a photocopy, then there is no harm in it. But of course these people, if the international publishing houses do not benefit, then why would they bring their books out in the economy as well? Why would they be there in the market as well? So that is also a question, that you cannot completely exclude them and allow Xeroxes to take place without any restriction when the entire bulk of population, the entire student population will be using only Xeroxes and not the actual books. So we'll have to see what the review will speak about, how the judgment would go. Next is disabled children miss out due to lack of support services report. So there is this report by India Social Development Report, is called SDR report of 2016, in which it says that 45% of all persons with disabilities in India are illiterate. So with respect to male and female too, there is a drastic difference. 38% of male PWDs means persons with disabilities, are illiterate, and 55% of female PWDs are illiterate. In Kerala also, which has 100% literacy, near 100% literacy, is also having 33.1% of people with disability illiterate. So that is a huge number. India's total literacy rate is 74%. So these numbers are alarming. Plus other points which are highlighted, which make it difficult for people with disability, children with disability, to achieve education is minimum support such as accommodation services being provided, assistive devices being provided, transportation facility being such that they can be facilitated. So all these are to be taken care of to ensure that disabled children complete their schooling. Also other aspects they suffer is even in healthcare services. So there is transportation which is an obstacle there too, lack of social services for this community, the cost involved is all a hindrance for accessing healthcare facilities. Also in terms of employment, 64% of people with disabilities in India are non-workers. That is also a huge figure. So in Kerala also, where employments are provided to people, here also it is the worst performer amongst the worst performers in employment. 74.52% of PWDs are non-workers. So this is alarming. The disability data further, number of PWDs is 2.2% of the population. So this is quite a low figure. So overall 70% of the disabled are there in rural areas. So there is underreporting which is also highlighted. Even movement disability is the largest number in PWDs, then followed by hearing disability and visual disability. The least percentages of mental illness and mental retardation. So this is also said due to the stigma involved in this, any sociological disability, is having a stigma involved, so people do not come out in the open and report it. So that's why there is quite a large chunk of underreporting done, because of which even the percentage is much higher. Even World Bank says that India's disabled population is 4 to 8%, and officially it is just 2.2%. So this is also there. And then high incidence of disability is seen in some states. So this is about disability. So disabled, all social welfare schemes, all status of disabled, these aspects are important in social section in UPSC. Then the next article is Supreme Court exempts disabled from anthem order. So we already know about the November 30 Supreme Court order on it being compulsory to play the national anthem, and everybody should stand up for the national anthem. The doors should be closed. So this clarification has come on this, that physically challenged, physically handicapped people are exempted from standing in the cinema halls when the national anthem is being played. And also on doors being closed, the Supreme Court has clarified that it does not mean that doors should be completely bolted, because this goes against a previous Supreme Court judgment in 2011 in Uphaar fire tragedy. Uphaar fire tragedy we have already discussed in news earlier. So this, at that time the court had said that cinemas should not lock the doors when the patrons, the viewers are there inside. So this is also there. So another point which was there, which the Supreme Court heard presently, was on the Film Society. International Film Festival took place presently. So it said that playing the national anthem before every screening will be difficult, because international delegates come to the festival and there are various movies screened, and before every movie, if the national anthem is played and they have to stand, then they'll be standing for around 5 times. So the Supreme Court got furious on this and said, why can't they stand 5 times to respect the national anthem of India? If they are here, they can even rise 20 times if required. So it dismissed this plea, and so this was the Supreme Court order, that national anthem would be played, but disabled excluded, as well as doors need not be bolted, just closed so that there is no disturbance. The next article is South Korea's president loses power. So this is regarding South Korean President Park Geun-hye. She is the first woman president of South Korea, and she will also be the first democratically elected president to be impeached. So she has been impeached by the parliament over corruption charges. So there was this close associate of the president, Miss Choi, who is having charges of corruption against her, and she was very close to the president, and also there were charges that the decisions taken by the government were influenced by her, taken behind closed doors. So this, even the leaders from her own political party voted against her. So this impeachment results in her being suspended from the post of president. It is only after the Constitutional Court, which has 180 days to decide whether the impeachment should be formally put into effect or not. After it gives its judgment, this will be effective. A former case is when Mr. Roh Moo-hyun, a former president of South Korea, was impeached, and during that time the Constitutional Court reinstated him in 2 months. So this was also not an impeachment put into effect. So this will be the first time, if she is impeached, approved by the Constitutional Court, to first impeachment effectively put into effect. So this is there. You can look at the details, but then we don't need to go into so many details regarding South Korea. This much knowledge is sufficient. Then next news item is about Boko Haram, which is a terrorist organization in Nigeria. So 30 killed in Boko Haram suicide attack in Nigeria. So this is important because we should know various terrorist organizations and where are they dominant. So these were 2 female suicide bombers who effected this terrorist attack. So it has been 7 years since this Islamic grouping has undertaken an uprising, a civil war going on in Nigeria, and there are around 20,000 people who have been killed, nearly 2.6 million refugees, and it's a huge humanitarian crisis in Nigeria, up here in the northeastern part of Nigeria. Even its neighboring countries are supporting it. A combined attack is undertaken on Boko Haram. So you can see the most prominent of the Boko Haram attacks were in April 2014 when girls' school was attacked in Chibok and 276 girls were imprisoned, taken as, abducted as such, kidnapped. So many of them have fled also, many of them have been rescued as well, but still there are girls who are with Boko Haram since the last 2 years, more than 2 years now. So this is one prominent incident. This is Boko Haram. So its influence is also diminishing as the countries are coming together and as a united front fighting against Boko Haram. So this is Nigeria. The neighbors here involved in this are Niger, Chad and Cameroon. So they are all working together. Then the next news item is industrial output shrinks 1.9% as manufacturing contracts. So index of industrial production we have discussed in detail earlier. So I'm not discussing that. Even the growth has slowed and industrial output has shrunk. There have been news coming in. So this is again showing that industrial production shrunk in October month. So there's fall in output in all manufacturing, capital goods as well as in mining. And also this fall is due to the base effect. This also we have discussed because in October 2015, last year, the growth was very high. So it was 9.9% growth. So when growth was very high compared to the normal growth, then next year, of course, because of high base, the base effect comes in and that's why we say growth right now is very low. And it goes into negative as well. Then the last news item is India reports fishery subsidies aims to protect poor fisher folk. So this is a provision which has been proposed before the World Trade Organization by developed countries led by US. It says that there should be a ban on subsidies given for illegal, unregulated and unreported fishing. So this is called IUU fishing. So this WTO has taken into consideration and India has notified to WTO about what subsidies it gives for fishing. So this filing has been done by India to the Committee on Subsidies and Countervailing Measures. So India says that fishery subsidy scheme at the central and state union territory levels provides subsidies worth 284 crores. This was provided in 2014-15 and this is to protect the livelihood of traditional and poor fisher communities. So majorly the subsidy which is provided is on high-speed diesel and the such mechanized boats and other oils which are required for these boats. Also some subsidies provided for purchasing nets, life-saving jackets, advanced technique equipments. So all these deep freezers, ice boxes, building port infrastructure. So all these are the areas in which India spends its subsidies. But then these subsidies are given to homeless, poor and such boat owners. So this is the point. But Tamil Nadu is the state which gets major chunk of these subsidies as well. But then these subsidies cannot be reduced and affected because all of them are not illegal, unregulated and unreported, because the US-led group which is calling for banning subsidies to this group says that because of this there is over-exploitation of resources, overfishing done, and this unsustainable fishing is having an impact on the global fisheries availability. So this global demand for fish is also increasing consequently. So this is required to be controlled. For these grounds, there is a requirement that steps need to be undertaken to bring it down from unsustainable levels, because it's biologically unsustainable. If you keep on fishing, then over exploitation would take place, then it would not replenish. So that is why it would become unsustainable and long run it would be difficult. But then India is objecting to this IUU fishing because this could lead to prohibition to even fishing that is non-IUU. IUU is what we discussed, illegal, unreported and unregulated. So this will also be excluded. So poor fishermen would suffer. This is their source of subsistence which should not be taken away from them. So, but presently there is not much which will take place because at WTO there is no consensus on what is IUU actually. So once this clarity comes forth, then only some action can be taken. So we are going to surely hear more about this, because if developed countries push something vigorously, then it will come in news again and again. So we'll hear again. This is just an introduction to the issue. So that is it for today. Thank you so much.